Thank you for listening to Comics for Fun and Profit. This is episode number 546 for comics originally released January the 1st, 2020. That's going to take me a little while to get a hold of. 2020, no longer 2019. We are into the new year. This is Kyle and Drew with your sneak peek. But before we get into what's coming out in your local comic shops this coming Wednesday, it's not just Drew and myself on the podcast today. We have a special guest with us. We have Eric all the way from Wisconsin, all the way from Cowabunga Comics.
Hello, hello. How you guys doing?
Great. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all that good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Merry Christmas to you gentlemen as well.
So what brings you by? Not that we don't love to have you come by, but it's a special occasion. What's happening?
Well, I just got a buzz on the phone. The party line from 1992 was active, so I thought let's get on and see what's going. No, we have ongoing dialogue throughout the year, and one of the things that came up not that long ago was I was just sitting and thinking, what would be a fun way to kind of spice things up, both on your podcast, but also a way that maybe we could try and raise some money and get some listeners engaged and stuff like that. And what I came up with was kind of a challenge for the two of you. It's something that I think had been batted around maybe last year, the year before, the idea of you guys get a set kind of allotment of money, and you both go and invest how you think you can best turn around and make money. And so what I decided to do was, instead of having you guys front your own money, I'm going to front you money.
Hey, I like that.
Right? I'm going to give you each $100. And the challenge is, over the course of 2020, see who can turn that $100 into more money. And the end goal of this is whatever we earn, or I guess I should say whatever you guys earn, we're going to donate to the Heroes Initiative. And for those that don't know what Heroes Initiative is, if you've ever been to a convention and you see little signs on artists' tables, what they're usually saying is signatures are free, and then we ask for any donation to Heroes Initiative. And it really goes to help out comic book writers, artists, and other industry professionals who have fallen on usually some sort of health hardship and have significant amounts of medical bills or other things like that they need help with. And the Heroes Initiative is really there to kind of be a community support system to help them make sure they have what they need. There's obviously a ton of organizations around the United States and the world that do similar things for all sorts of different people, whether it's veterans, homeless, you name it. But I thought this would be kind of a fun way to stay inside the comic book world. It's something that we all probably don't even realize how active Heroes Initiative is with our creative talent that we buy books from every month. In fact, I know of a couple of very young creators who have had to reach out to Heroes Initiative for some help with medical bills and things like that, and you wouldn't suspect it. So it's a really worthy cause. It's something that I think we as a larger comics community could certainly always do a little bit more to help with. And it's something that I like helping with because it doesn't carry with it a lot of other excess baggage, overhead costs, and things like that. It's basically volunteers that run this thing, volunteers that run it at conventions, creators helping each other out, and then the community. So that's the idea. I'll give you each $100 via PayPal, and you guys can invest it however you want to, whether you want to buy books that are coming out this week, whether you want to buy back issues, whatever you think you want to do with the money. The goal is, let's see who can turn that $100 into the most amount of money by the end of the year. We'll figure out a cadence for regular check-ins and kind of get some sort of an idea of what you guys have bought, sold, things like that, and what you're looking like. Maybe it'll be monthly. Seems like that might be a good level. I think weekly could get a little bit too micromanagey. But that's the idea. So what do you guys say? Are you up for the challenge?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That
that sounds
awesome.
great.
So
I
it's
think I know my brother well enough. I think he's going to go and spend it all on the quarter bins. So this could be interesting.
And I'm also going to throw this out there to any listeners who are listening. If you want to do your own personal challenge and see where you get relative to these guys, I'm sure that through social media, through Twitter, Facebook, whatever, or email in and let them know where you're at and what you're doing. I think that'd be kind of fun as well. And I would also challenge you, if you're doing this at home, maybe take a little bit of your proceeds, and when we get to the end of the year, we put it all together and get it over to the Heroes Initiative.
Absolutely. Put yourself against us. Earmark $100. Play the challenge with us. Tell us where you guys are making money, not making money. Make us look like fools on some account, or perhaps teach us throughout the year what the best way you guys are finding as well. Because it's not easy. I mean, if I'm just beating my brother through the whole year, that's not really that fun.
No, that's kind of like every day anyway. So.
So yeah, I think that's going to
so-
be fun, and it adds a little something, and hopefully maybe we can get a few more listeners to chime in too.
Kyle and I will have to work out the our ground rules, I guess, too, because he'll try to cheat and do loopholes and stuff. So we'll have to make sure that he doesn't take any shortcuts.
How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, you can't
I
buy
believe
gold.
you are the one that cheats at Monopoly every single time.
You can't buy gold. You have to invest in comics. And,
What is this comic called Bitcoin you speak of?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. Thank you. It'll be fun. And then, like, sometime in December of next year, we'll sell everything and see how we did.
Or we'll sell. I mean, we'll probably have to sell as we go and just tally because, got to strike while the iron's hot on some of these.
Yep.
Oh,
that's the idea.
Okay.
That's
So
the idea.
it's
The
up to
idea
us
is
to decide
transactions
whether
throughout
we're-
the year.
So we can either hold on to it or sell it at the end of the year.
Yep.
So you're going to be working hard those first 6 months to get around 300 in profit to flip it for that Amazing Spider-Man 300 to then flip at the end of the year.
I don't think I could bear it again. I gotta
then-
stay away from.
I was going to say, to throw a little sweetener into it, what we're going to do is I'll put together a nice little goodie package for whoever does the best. Some ratio variants and maybe a few exclusives, a couple things like that. And whoever does the best between you guys will get those. And if we have some listeners that we can follow along and see how they do, maybe we'll throw something to the person who lets us know they did the best. We'll have to find some way to validate it, but I think we can probably trust most of the listeners.
Absolutely.
Most of them, not that guy in Hawaii.
Yeah,
Shifty.
yeah. You mean that sweet guy that just sends all sorts of goodies and fun things and asks nothing in return? He's definitely the one we should keep an eye on.
That guy.
So yeah, if you guys want to share, and you guys being listeners, you want to share your eBay handles if that's where you think you're going to do a bulk of your selling. Obviously, there may be listeners who are interested in what you have and may want to bid up things a little bit so that a couple more dollars to the Heroes Initiative. So if you want to do that, feel free. But that's the challenge. I look forward to the year, and yeah, with that, I hope you guys don't mind. I'm just going to hang around and lurk in the shadows during this episode.
Sounds
Awesome.
great.
Awesome. So yeah, if you want to be a part of this, or you have questions about the contest, or questions for Eric about Heroes Initiative or anything like that, you can email us at comicsforfunandprofit@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Comics Fun Profit, or Instagram or Facebook, both at Comics for Fun and Profit, and get a hold of us that way. Those connections will all be in the show notes as well. And once we get some stuff going, we'll try to keep a tally going to see how we're doing. I'm already kind of thinking like I might do half new stuff and half like maybe an investment comic, like an older investment comic, that I can hold on for the year and see how that goes. I don't know. It's exciting. There's a lot of different ways to go. With the idea that we make a lot of money, I get to beat my brother's brains in and give to charity. It's a win-win. I love it.
Bring it on.
Now we Kyle, did we do this last year? Did we do a best of yearly wrap up last year?
We've done them many times. I cannot remember if we did one for 2018, but I assume we did.
And I know because we also used to do the mid year cowies with Eric and James. Those have went away.
Yeah, we should get back on those. That was fun.
We need to get back on those. But this is our 2019 yearly wrap up. We tweaked it a little bit, and to kind of. So it was a little lengthy last time, so we kind of streamlined it a little bit. And the first set of categories are all big two questions. So it's Marvel and DC lumped together. And the first category is our favorite read of the year. Kyle, do you want to go first or want me to go first?
You can go first on this if you'd like.
Okay. I had a few nominees that kind of were in the running for the winner. Doomsday Clock was one. Dead Man Logan was something that I really enjoyed reading all year. American Carnage, the Brian Hill book, I really liked a lot. Deceased was a solid book all year long, as was although it was only 3 issues. Superman Year One I thought was a standout book. And I know this is going to be a tough one for you to swallow, but I'm going to give it to Doomsday Clock. A little recency bias. I know there was a lot.
After all the trash you talked about Doomsday Clock and
all the delays.
Yeah.
It's just, I between the quality of the ending, the solid art throughout that they took their time with, and but I just thought that was probably my favorite big two book of the year.
There you go. For me, we've got Deceased. I've been dipping my toe in and out of Deceased. Of course, it's Tom Taylor. In the last couple weeks, knowing this was coming up, I jumped in and read through a bunch of that stuff. I started in the House of X and Powers of 10 stuff. I made sure I finished this one again. Those 2 big books are the ones that speak out. I also have Jimmy Olsen in this one. I also have Lois Lane there by Rucka in this category as well. Those are, for me, the ones that I'm probably looking at the most as far as my big two, because those are the ones I finished up and really liked. And I'm going to give it to, and I'm combining House of X and Powers of 10 together, because I think it was a really neat thing to do. We talked for years about, man, X-Men are convoluted. Nobody cares. Why was Wolverine in 56 books? These are things. And they're trying to just unify and do something different. It was bonkers. It was off the wall. I had no clue what was going on in Powers of 10 for about 3 of the 6 books, but once it's all said and done, friends or enemies are friends again. We have a whole congruent, island of people. We're doing a completely different thing, and I never thought they'd get me, but I'm like, okay, I'm with you. Let's take this together. It's something different. It's something neat, and my favorite read was the entire 6 issues of House of X and Powers of 10. If you haven't done it, you can pick up the hardcover with those in them now. A really good thing and I'm giving Marvel credit for doing an event that I enjoyed.
Well, I cannot discount that because I haven't read those yet.
It's definitely worth reading, especially since we were so frustrated with what X-Men was within Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
This is their attempt through this to do it, and that's just looking at this, because then if we want to look at Dawn of X that came after that, it hasn't really lived up to what I thought I was getting with House of X and Powers of 10 in several of those titles. But in general, I like the restarting, I like the doing, I like the mutant togetherness and everything. Solid event.
Yeah. Eric, do we miss anything? Some favorite reads of yours in the big two realm?
So for me, this year was not as big of a reading year as other years. Work has just gotten busier and busier at the shop, but I did find time to read Silver Surfer Black, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. I thought that a number of the pieces that were kind of stitched and begun by Donny Cates a long time back in things like his Thanos and some of the other work that he had done. There was the Doctor Strange Damnation pieces and things like that. So all the groundwork that he's been laying for kind of this Black world has been great. But I'm going to say for me, my favorite read of the year, it was unfortunately the 3rd and final issue of the 3-issue series. The first 2 came out in 2018. One came at the very end of 2018, I think the last week. And that's Batman Damned. I absolutely loved how it all wrapped up. I thought that it was, from start to finish, it was a fantastic piece of writing. The art was amazing. I think as far as leading off the Black Label kind of creator-controlled style of things, I thought it was a great lead-in. Obviously, we know that the first issue had its shadowy edition, that caused a number of people to get very excited. But the story, in and of itself, regardless of that, I think was fantastic. So for me, that was probably the most rewarding read of the year. Just to wrap it up nicely.
Let's see. Favorite investment comic. This is to keep or to flip. Keep long term or to flip short term. And I was on the fence. I was going back and forth between Naomi and Immortal Hulk.
Yeah, those are the two obviously big ones from the big two of this
Those
year.
were the big ones that I made the most money with, and seemed to have enough heat for the longest extended amount of time. But I'm going to give it to Immortal Hulk just because it just seemed to be the gift that kept on giving. You know, you'd think it was going to cool off, and then something else would take off and get hot, and solid Alex Ross covers throughout, and so I gave it to Immortal Hulk.
Yeah, and both Naomi and Immortal Hulk I had as very quick flips. I didn't see necessary. I don't know the long term in Naomi. I'm still not sure what DC's doing with that. So I think your best bet was to sell early on that one. I'm not real sure, but only time will tell on that one. But I had those both as quick flips. But I also had Naomi and Immortal Hulk as my top two.
What other big two investment comics, hot flip comics from 2019 happened that we may have missed out on? Eric?
Well, there was a handful of books that turned around and did pretty good. I'm just kind of going back through looking at my list of things, and the ones that jump out to me, let's kind of get back here towards the beginning of the year. So these are mostly going to be middle of the year and closer to now. There was a Ghost Spider #2 Peach Momoko 1 in 25 variant that I ended up picking up that did pretty good, sold for $40 and kind of kept creeping up. I also definitely know that Something is Killing the Children #1. There was the A cover did good, and then the Jenny Frizen variant did incredibly well on the secondary
It's not big
market.
two, though. Right?
Fine. That's right. That's not big two. Well, then fine. I'll go big two with Batman Beyond 37, which was the first Batwoman, first Batwoman Beyond. That was a big one. And then probably my winner, my personal winner, one that I looked at and I ended up getting 3 copies of myself because I had a hunch on it, was the Marvel Action Spider-Man #10. Now, I know it's not big two, but it is still big two because it's still solicited in the Marvel section. So you call it what you want, but I would say Batman Beyond #37, and then Marvel Action Spider-Man #10, 1 in 10 incentive John Boy Myers variant. So those are the ones that I have.
Nice. For favorite creator, from a favorite big two creator, that was a tough one, but for me it had to be Tom Taylor. He did some great stuff in 2019, mostly for the big two, and I liked all of it. So
yep, Tom Taylor's
fun.
my answer as well, from both Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and from his work on Deceased, because those were the two that I looked at and said, oh, he's doing the same things I like in these.
Yeah. You have a favorite creator, favorite big two creator that you always go back to?
Yeah, I do. He didn't do much this year, but what he did was great. Kurt Busiek, he wrapped up the Marvels stuff. He did the epilogue on the Marvels books. He finished up his Creature of the Night. So those are the two big two ones, and then I will give honorable mentions also to Tom Taylor, Donny Cates, and Jonathan Hickman.
Yeah.
Hickman I had on here a couple times. Hickman was my #2.
Yeah. Okay, so we have worst decision and best decision by the big two. Which one do you want to do first, Kyle?
I'll talk worst decision for a little bit, because I talked about the highs of House of X and Powers of 10 and things like that, and then post those things, some of the decisions with Dawn of X and some of the things I've seen from that haven't been good. Things like Fallen Angels and kind of the direction they took Laura Kinney in with that, because we spent all that time with Tom Taylor and building up Laura Kinney as the next Wolverine and kind of getting past this, adolescent wild child that's nothing but rage and everything to give her an actual personality. And then we put her in books like this and team-up books, and we've forgotten all that, and it's a very, very shallow thing of her, and I've seen her regress a little bit in both this and the one that was previous to this. I can't remember who wrote the other X-23 book right before that. But that character was really going somewhere when we had the absence of Wolverine, and then bringing him back, and then just kind of seeing what they've done with her. I think it's been nothing but bad decisions with her.
That's
And then of
that's
course,
a good call. I missed that
and then
one
of course
completely.
Rick Grayson, just the name.
All right, that's yeah. I can feel your pain. I'd forgotten about the X-23 debacle. It has fallen off a cliff, and I'm not really sure what they were thinking because it was such a fun series up to that point. Mine is just DC Year of the Villain thing. They yet another event shoehorned into something, taking over books that I normally read and derailing them in a way that I don't get. I didn't understand the plan. I don't know what all the one shots were, what the deal was. It seemed cash grabby. This was coupled with acetate covers, and then we did cardstock SKUs and raised prices on B covers, all that around the same time. So I'm blaming it all on DC's Year of the Villain, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that one bit. I didn't. It really kicked me off of a bunch of titles that I was enjoying. So yeah, that was mine. I bet you have a laundry list, Eric. You didn't get this. You didn't get this category ahead of time, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. But any bad decisions by the big two this year?
I'll just, as a retailer, sum mine up to say everything DC.
Yeah.
From spoiling their storylines.
Card stocks.
I don't care about the card stocks. Actually,
There
as
you
a
go.
retailer, those are great because it's an extra dollar we make. But no, everything from spoiling their own books in the New York Times and going on late night shows and spoiling books before they show up, to canceling highly anticipated and highly important collected editions that have been out of print. Just everything about the way they just chose to run their business this year is a downfall. I think that there's some good creators, and I know that there's some good people that work at DC, and unfortunately, you can row in a sinking ship only for so long before it's sunk, and then you're just floating. And they are starting to sink, and they need to make some decisions and make some changes, I believe, to kind of right things and resume more of a proper approach. So.
That's the best decision, Kyle.
Unpopular, but I think pulling Tom King from Batman is a good decision on the part of DC. Simply because there were so many people that complained about it. You're giving him his own book. You're restarting it. I mean, when I look back and I started reading some more of those backs, we did make some dumb stuff with Tom King and with Batman. We literally had 7 straight issues where we just had a dream with Batman, and that's our mainline title. He needed off the book. So I think that was the best decision that they could have made, and hopefully we get some good stuff from Tinian before, because I think that was a good decision by DC that couldn't have been an easy one. Pull him, give him his own book to do his Catwoman thing, and move on from that. And then the House of X, Powers of 10, and the reformatting of the Dawn of X stuff from Marvel was the best decisions.
Yeah, in the running for worst decision was the shuttering of Vertigo for me. But there's still Vertigo stuff coming out, so I'm like, did they really change their mind? Because I still see some Vertigo every once in a while, so I'm not sure that is actually happening. But I think their best decision was this Hill House imprint. Not quite as impactful as the Black Label, but for me, it has been really, really cool to have a curated imprint like this. And I think they should try this in the future with different authors that want to like manage a genre. I could see that working outside of horror with maybe a war comic imprint or something like that. I think that'd be fun. At least I would like it. But I really thought the Hill House imprint is great so far. 3 or 4 titles in, and I hope that's a sign of creative positivity in the future.
And for me, I'll switch to the other side of the aisle, and I will say Marvel returning to, I think, what they would consider their rightful place at the top of the list. I think there's been a lot of, from a retailer perspective, a lot of very positive things Marvel has done, a lot of listening to retailers, doing the things that work best for us. You as a listener and a reader may not love every title that they put out, but you cannot argue with their position in the sales rankings. They give us as retailers tools to maximize our profits by offering the variant covers, which some people moan about, and other people, love it. It just kind of it hits wherever it hits, but it is truly an incentive for us to add a few more books onto our orders in many cases to get those. So by arming us with the fact that there is no returnability, giving us the opportunity to say, well, we don't have returnability, but if you add those extra 5 or 6 books, we will give you this one that's valued much higher, so you can at least cover that. So there's a lot of things that Marvel has done in just a retailer's purview, I guess, as it pertains to how we receive the product. But I think more than that even is the direction that C.B. Cebulski has brought in as the editor-in-chief. Once he came in, you could tell the passion was there. The creators are excited. They have an incredibly long list of things that they want to do. I think a farther-looking horizon than they've had in a long time. A lot of items planned, and considering how much volume they're putting out, the fact that by and large they are relatively cohesive, I think is very impressive. And things like Donny Cates, Jason Aaron, and Jonathan Hickman, you've got some pretty strong horses doing some really, really awesome work. So I would say for me, between the big two, the most positive thing is just the overall turnaround of Marvel and how strong they are in the marketplace and how strong they are for us as retailers.
Nice. Now let's slide into the everybody else category. We lumped Image and the back half and IDW and Dark Horse and everybody into this to kind of hit the highlights of what was our standouts of the year. And under favorite reads, quickly.
Can I just predict you, Drew?
Sure.
I'm going to predict you as Walking Dead 193, because we just kind of parrot each other on a lot of things.
Well, these are just titles; these are not individual issues.
Yeah, and I'm going to picture Criminal. Those are my 2 predictions for you.
Those both made the list as nominees.
Okay,
yes.
just checking.
So you know me well. Second Coming as well. I thought that was great. Man-Eaters I thought was solid. I thought Murder Falcon was a wonderful surprise, and enjoyed that a lot. Ennis's Walk Through Hell was great. I thought Fair Lady was just a real fantastic debut, and something I hope they bring back, even though it didn't make much money. Paper Girls ending, that was solid. Of course, The Beauty was a solid run as well. Red Sonja, I think, is high quality book each and every month, and then but my winner and a nominee is Ice Cream Man.
Whoa!
Yeah, I could have had an awful lot of Walking Dead on here, and there's enough coming. So you'll see, and I felt like, it's time to appreciate this title. That's an anthology, but not an anthology. It's got a through line. It's got some incredibly creative concepts, high concepts, and they almost, every one of them have been great, and some of them have just been amazing page turners. And hats off! It was my favorite title of the year.
Very good. On my list, my nominees for favorite read are Kanto, the Boom Book 6-issue series.
Wow.
That turned out really good, and I think they're doing another 6 issues on that one. That was something I just finished up recently that I'd started, really liked, and said I had to finish up by the end of the year. Little Bird, I went back. That's an Image one that was another neat small series that I really liked. Die, really like Die. I'm not caught up all the way. I think they're out through 9. I'm through 6 at the moment. But that is a book pretty much written for me. Really have been enjoying that one. Dark Red, of course, from Aftershock. Big fan of that one. Dark Age from Red 5 Comics. I just read the first one, but I really enjoyed that one. That's the one where all metal turns to dust. So they go back to a more primitive wood-based culture, and then, of course, you and I love our post-apocalyptic. Undiscovered Country has been great so far. Once and Future, of course, a giant bright spot, and that's my list. And I'm going to give it to Die. I'm really enjoying the first
Dungeons and
Die.
Dragons, not the Die. The Dungeons and Dragons.
Correct.
Kieran
Die
Gillen
as in
book?
roll a die, as in Jumanji meets Dungeons and Dragons. A really well done book. And really good.
I stopped reading that after issue 1. So what I'm missing
No, go
out.
back in. Keep going. Absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. Eric, what are we missing out on?
Well, for me, there's a number of smaller things that I had read. None of them were, I would say, top of the stack. Other than Criminal, for me, is always up there. And I'm gonna say that probably, I think my favorite of the year from all the rest has got to be Lazarus Risen. I got onto Lazarus late and took the opportunity when they went from the monthly to the quarterly publication to start over. I had read the first handful of issues and then kind of veered off, not because I didn't like it, just because you can only have so much coming in at once. So I decided to double down. I went back, I bought the hardcovers, and just went cover to cover on them. And then Lazarus Risen coming out this year. I've loved every. I think there were 3 issues that came out. I've loved them all. So
Yep.
that's the one that I would give it to.
Yeah, that's true. Did you read the like the side quest books that were in the Lazarus uniform? I skipped those.
Yeah, I haven't. I do have them. I'm going to go back and read them though.
Yeah, I mean the new Lazarus is the new formats. It's fantastic as from a reader standpoint, but it sure leaves you wanting more, man.
Oh yes, it does.
But yeah, it's a nice chunk of reading material. Let's see our favorite investment comic from the everybody else category, all the other publishers category. I'm gonna this will be the last time I can toe this line, but I'm gonna give it to Walking Dead. We still saw the juice from Rick's death. We're seeing Princess getting some heat when she gets introduced on the show. So it still has juice and still has flippability, probably for the last year coming up.
Yeah, and especially on The Walking Dead, it's not necessarily the 193 at the end. Those 190s, 189s, those are the low point for the numbers during that last arc for the most part. So those are the ones that are fairly sought after because there's just not as much of those. And once everything ended, people clamored to read that last bit, and there just weren't enough of those books. So those ones were good ones. Of course, Once and Future made some good money, went back for 6 or 7 prints. Same thing with Die #1. I think it was on its 5th or 6th print. So there was good flippability in the beginning of those books.
Yep, and I'll appropriately put mine in the right place now and say Something is Killing the Children.
Which is still pretty cool. Still a really good book.
Yep, and especially the Jenny Frison cover, and then if you have the New York Comic Con variant, it's the black and white Virgin Jenny Frison cover.
Yes.
So
I'm gonna put it, and let's see, favorite creator from the other publishers. It's gonna have to be Mark Russell, although he could have been in the running for the big 2 with his Red Sonja and Second Coming. Those have been really, really solid, and I gave my favorite creator to him.
I defaulted to Robert Kirkman. Just the balls to cut your series when he did, the way it wrapped up, how it did, and to know that kind of was his vision the whole time, and that letters page at the end. Robert Kirkman, favorite creator of 2019.
Yeah.
Ed Brubaker for me. I pretty much love everything that he does.
Yep.
And this year was no slouch for him, so I'm going with Ed Brubaker.
Fantastic. the worst decision is also the best decision. So I can yield the floor after this. It was ending Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So it was the worst decision because I selfishly would like to read Walking Dead forever. But it was the best decision because it was executed so well. It was such a surprise, so well done. Um, Going out on his own terms. We did a special episode about the series because series ending because it was so amazing to the two of us, and so it gets both my awards.
Yeah, I also have Walking Dead as my worst decision and my best decision.
Do you really?
Yeah, I have it both as both of those. But another thing with the worst decision, I think it was 2019 where we kind of reordered the non-Big Two and the non-Image in our previews catalogs and stuff.
Yeah.
And we've got different non-big ones jockeying for space and pulling them out of the alphabetic order of things that are typically in the smaller publishers and you know things like that. And I don't like those decisions. Just put them back there, put them alphabetical, let them fight for their space and I don't know. I don't like
Would
the
you
way.
like them all to be alphabetical?
Yeah, just I mean, you've got your big two, and they've got their own thing. Image has pulled its book to its own thing at one point in time, and then just put everything in the latter half and let them be their own thing. Let them stand out how they want within that previews. This, let's put Boom a little separate, or Dark Horse a little separate, or this one. Well, now Dark Horse is under this one, and the things, and just kind of the way it's come out. I don't know. I don't like it as well.
I do think previews should look at everybody goes back into the catalog alphabetically, and DC and Marvel can have their catalog. I don't think Image does Plus anymore. I think that was a 1 year and done thing. But yeah, I'd like to see that too. I just don't think it works like it was supposed to.
I agree. Here. But those are my best and worst.
Okay.
I will start with my worst, and that is Image's publishing policy. I think 2019 was officially the year where we started to see Image slip. We saw the overabundance of similar titles continue to add confusion in the marketplace, i.e. Die and Die. We also saw too many titles coming out of one publisher that just don't have any connective thread across them, so there's no leverage or buoy to increase sales. And what I mean by that is you look at a DC and a Marvel, even a Valiant, and there are connective tissues across the entire universes that can get someone who's reading series title A to also read an issue of series title B. You don't have that with Image, so you're really just all on your own. And once you've gotten past issue 1 and the rights have been sold to your property for development in TV or film that 80% of the time don't even see the light of day, that's it. The train is done and interest wanes significantly. So for me, it's the current state of Image, not because Robert Kirkman ended Walking Dead, but because they just put the eye on everything that gives them $2,500. And I think they need to recenter themselves and figure out, if we do want to be the house of ideas, should we be the house of the same ideas all going on at the same time? I think there needs to be a little bit more of a planned approach to releasing and how they, if they want to do a 6-issue arc, fine, do one, vampire 6-issue arc now and then do the next one when that one's done, as opposed to running them concurrently, competing on shelf space and readers' attention. So that's my negative. My positive is Boom. I think that Boom has really started to step into their own. I'll speak as a retailer and say, they have a lot of first and second issue programs that retailers can leverage to reduce our risk on bringing in their books. And that is highly, highly appreciated and has helped us to sell significantly more than what we had previously. And even more than that, I would say bringing in the variety of titles that they have, bringing in the creative talent that they have, and building up Boom as more than just kind of a quote-unquote kiddies line of books. I think you see things like Sky over East Berlin, Something is Killing the Children. You're starting to get more mature titles in Boom, and it's really resonating with readers. I think that the mix of the tools that they give us as retailers and the vision that they have as a comprehensive and complete publisher, I think really set them up nicely for 2020.
But there is no connective tissue in Boom books either.
There is not, and that's fine. They have a much smaller line than Image, and again, because Image is basically you pay us to put the eye on it, and that's it. You're on your own. Boom is very much we're paying to get your idea and have it and publish it, so we care a lot more about the success of it, so they put more behind it.
I mean, but the idea you pay $2,500 to put the eye on it, and you own the damn thing.
I can only tell you what's working and what's not, and what's working right now is Boom is having significant success with their new titles, and Image isn't.
Maybe an Economo walk.
I mean, I can pull up the numbers and show you. We talk about them every month with John. Image will sell because they have the Image eye, but I think you look at the quality and the duration of the sales, and I think that Boom is going to be in a better place in 2020 than Image will be, especially with no Walking Dead, with no Saga. All you have is Spawn that it's really resting on right now for high number sales. And that's going to come back down because our anniversary issues are over. And I don't want that to sound like I don't like Image, because I love Image. Some of my favorite books are coming out through Image. My favorite creator, my favorite title, both come from Image. So it's not that I'm trying to say I don't like them. I'm just saying I think they need to reevaluate a few things, and I think Boom is on the upswing.
I definitely think Boom is on the upswing. If they get rid of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I think they'd be able to really refocus their line. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Boom, and they were almost my favorite publisher. It's just a couple, like their titles are. There's too many light titles, that just don't have enough meat on the bone. But I do enjoy a lot of Boom. I agree with you there. I do agree with you there.
I got one more thing that's the best decision. This year seems to be the year of FOC, more than anything, with FOC exclusives and things like that. Kind of changed the way we do our ordering. I don't know who's made that decision, but I think that's been a very cool thing, a very neat industry change, and I've been enjoying that quite wholeheartedly.
Oh yeah, we really the die thing was so much fun for us to have a surprise title like that. And of course, Robert Kirkman has the money to be able to play that game. Not no other creators or publishers can do that. But I thought it was so much fun. I love the fact that we were like in on a little secret at first, and it was just brilliantly done. That was a ton of fun. That whole die thing, and I think it's coming back. Let's move on to our miscellaneous categories. Your best single issue, your favorite issue of the year. And I think I had to give this to Walking Dead 193, the final issue, culmination of everything that the series was, and such a great wrap-up, stuck the landing. There were a lot of great nominees here. I could have given it to the final issue of Doomsday Clock, or Ice Cream Man 14, the one you could read backwards and forwards. I thought that was pretty brilliantly created. There's tons of them that could have been in there, but I had to give it to Walking Dead.
Yeah, I went chalk with Walking Dead as well. I probably could have got creative and found some other stuff, but I don't think I wanted to find anything other than that book for that book, so I think I just wrote it down and stopped talking about it.
Yeah.
For me, Batman Beyond 37. It's just exciting. It's been a great title. There's not enough people reading it. It has good movement, good flow, good consequence, and I think that just the overall bringing in this unknown Batwoman, who is she, was done perfectly. I loved it. So that's mine.
Were you reading it before the heat came?
I was. I have a straight run from the New 52 Batman Beyond #1 on.
Wow.
I've never read a Batman Beyond, so it's a blind spot for me for sure.
It's I don't know. Did you ever watch the TV show?
No.
Well, you've missed on two things, good sir.
Yeah.
For 2020, your resolution should be to pick one of them and catch up.
Yeah, animation is a blind spot I have too. So, I've got people on me about Clone Wars and on the Star Wars realm, and there's a bunch of DC animated things that I should check out. And yeah, I missed out on that.
That's okay. We all have our chinks in the armor.
Let's see, our favorite publisher. This, like I said, this was a close one for me. It was almost Boom, but I ended up giving it to the Skybound imprint of Image. So it's really giving it. I guess I'm giving it to Image, but in particular the Skybound imprint, which I think is the highest quality books, the highest hits for me. I like tons of their stuff. I'm going to miss at least one big major one that Skybound imprinted. Of course, that's Kirkman's imprint. I just think the editor there seems to do a good job. And they do print a lot of my letters in the back of their books. I will say that I'm easily bought and bribed. And because my letters have been in the back of most of the Skybound books this year, that I will now live on in immortality forever.
You right next to George R.R. Martin.
Yep.
Because I can't remember which issue it was. I think there's an issue of Superman that he had a letter published in under a different name, of course.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Bendis got his letter published in a John Byrne comic. So a lot of greats begin that way. It's like me, a lot of greats.
Yeah, you're one in a long line of literary giants.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Anytime I can help you with words, I'm down with that.
Kyle, how about you?
For me, I'm still sticking with Aftershock. I've been liking reading their first on a lot of things. Not a ton of longevity and still some things. Still a smaller publisher, but I liked the decisions they're making. I like that they're still getting some nice named creators over there, and thematically their books seem to hit pretty good with me.
Yep.
Very cool.
Can I guess it's Marvel for you?
Oh man, you are so wrong.
No,
it's not Marvel. I'm going to throw a complete curveball. They don't do single issues. My favorite publisher of the year was Viz.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I read a handful of ongoing titles from Viz and have enjoyed. I enjoy reading manga. I find that sometimes it's nice to take a little break. And Black Torch is my favorite title of the year from all the manga that I read. It's been very enjoyable. And there's a number of other things I get from Viz. A new series called No Guns Life that just came out. Radiant, Golden Kamui. They are also the ones that have Death Note, which it's a great book. Maybe until the last couple of volumes, and for me it kind of went downhill. But boy, the first 2/3 of it was just phenomenal. But anyway, so Viz is probably my number one. I've liked everything that I've gotten from them this year, and then honorable mentions for me are definitely Boom, and then I'm gonna say the Jinx World add-ins from Bendis. I enjoy his Jinx World editions. So those are my two honorable mentions.
Yeah, I like most of those too. Let's see. A Rising Star Rookie of the Year award. This could be a new series, a new publisher, a new creator, whatever that kind of came on the scene. For me, it's W. Maxwell Prince, the writer for Ice Cream Man. He's done a couple of other things but they were stuff that I had never heard of, and he's relatively a newcomer, and therefore he gets my Rising Star Rookie of the Year, and someone whose creativity should be rewarded with more books so that he'll spread himself thin and his stuff won't be as good as anymore. like happens with everybody else.
There you go. Technically, so I'm talking about DC Black Label just because I like the direction going
Good call.
a little more hard. I think it technically started at the end of 2018, but I'm going to pretend I don't know that answer. But I just like the fact that there seems to be a place where we can put a more mature title. Nothing seems to have hit as hard as the Batman Damned necessarily, but I'm hoping we find a few more that really stick in that and it really grows, and that we just take it as we can write these shorter stories with a more mature theme, and we can really go places with some of these superhero books.
I'm going to allow you to have that opinion since it is your own.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
but I don't like the fact that they retroactively jammed Curse of the White Knight into Black Label when it wasn't a Black Label title. I don't like the fact that it started out as it's a oversized prestige format line, and then it became now other things are in there. So now Hellblazer is a Black Label that's $3.99 book. So I like a lot of the stuff they put out. I will give you that. But there's a little bit of murkiness in what the direction is, I think. What qualifies.
Yeah, especially because your Hill House books are also Black Label.
Yeah.
They've confused themselves as to what they've got as a label.
Are they Black Label now?
They are.
Have they always been?
They have. And that's why people are like, why are you calling it a label? It's a pop-up imprint. Well, is it an imprint? No, it's a label. They don't know what they're doing. So that just adds to my DC figure your shit out. Just go back to Vertigo and everyone can be happy.
Yeah. How about for you, Rising Star Rookie of the Year?
My Rising Star Rookie of the Year is coming out of left field. Someone that our good friend Jason in Hawaii did an interview with. Had the pleasure of meeting her at C2E2. Just an absolutely phenomenally sweet woman. And that's Agnes Garbowska. She has done a number of books for My Little Pony. However, this year she's going big league, and she is now doing the DC Superhero Girls art. I think it's huge jump in her career, and I'm really happy for her. I love her art style. My daughter loves her art style, and I think that this is the start of probably the next step in her career, so I'm going to give it to her.
Yeah. Very good. For a favorite comic book show or movie, there were two shows for me that were standout this year: Deadly Class and The Boys. I liked both of them very, very much, and I'm going to give the nod to Deadly Class. Of course, things that I love are taken away from me too early, and Deadly Class was not picked up for a second season by Sci-Fi, which still disappoints me so very, very much. But I thought it was just a wonderful adaptation of a great Rick Remender book, and so well done, and it was my favorite one of the year.
As far as shows, those were the two that I actually went through that I thought were two of my better ones, and the stuff that all the Arrow and Supergirl and everything is, they're crossing over for what's it called, Flashpoint. Or not
Crisis.
Crisis. I like some of the things they're doing. So just the trailer of that really excited me. Just a couple of the people they've put in the Elseworld Batman characters and things like that, I think are pretty neat decisions and lead a lot of those kind of things. So those are my tops. But I think The Boys is the one that came out of left field the most for me, and I really, really enjoyed that one.
I'm hoping that I've got the year right because I am behind in seeing and watching many, many, many things. So I pray I've got it right, but I'm going with Umbrella Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, you are correct.
Yep. Okay, so good. That was a Netflix show. I thought it was incredibly well done, fun to watch, fun to, kind of groove along with this band of misfits. So I'm going to go with Umbrella Academy.
I saw the trailer. I haven't got a chance to watch that one yet. Along with Titans, I haven't got a chance to check that out, or Doom Patrol. So I'm behind on a few things.
Hey, good news! Holiday break
and Swamp Thing.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, is that out?
Yeah.
Well, what's gonna come out, which is a shame because what had come out was very good. Small plug for everybody going to read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. You won't be disappointed.
There you go.
Don't have to buy it for me even, but if you do, I'll give you a discount.
Favorite other comic related.
Oh, sorry, movies as well. I thought we were doing
Oh.
shows and movies separately.
I did but you can sure go ahead.
Of course, we've got Endgame and Joker as the big two movies of the year as far as comic book related things go. We also had Far From Home. I loved Shazam this year. It was one of my favorites. And some would say Captain Marvel. But for me, Endgame with a nod to Shazam is my movie related comic stuff for the year.
Was that the same year?
Mm-hmm.
Was that 2019?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh Lord!
Yeah.
What a year!
Which is why I didn't think we could gloss over it, because they were just gigantic things.
Yeah, that was a big thing. You're right. Do you want to give a shout out for a movie, Eric?
I only saw 2 comic-related movies this year that were of the current year, and that was Endgame and the latest Star Wars. So I'll just say they can both have my nomination. And
You didn't see Shazam?
No.
It's really good.
Sure. It's not the Shazam I want to see. Let's just put it that way. So I would just say tip of the hat to Marvel. Taking 80% of the box office for the year. Very, very incredible and well-deserved.
Well, Disney did that.
Disney/Marvel, correct.
Yes. They are giant. They are a very large corporation. You're correct.
And they can buy more. They have a big credit card.
Let's see. Favorite other comic related. For me, I gave it to our friends over at coverprice.com, COVRPRICE, who have been curating that fun, top-selling eBay list each and every week for us, even though we sometimes don't agree with it. Sometimes we are very pleasantly surprised, and sometimes we don't even understand it. So, but it's but it's fun. It's always been fun. So thank you for doing that 50-ish times a year for us. We appreciate that very much.
I don't necessarily have one for this. I wasn't really sure where to go on that one. That one was still blank on mine.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I was going to ask you if you wanted me to scratch that one, and I didn't. Eric, you don't have to play along unless you have something.
I do. So I would say my favorite comic-related thing for the year is GPA analysis, which is CGC comic book pricing, and it takes into account all of the major auction and clearance houses for comics that are slabbed. So eBay, Comic Link, Heritage, Hakes, any of those big places, and it gives you an up-to-date price on what the different grade levels are for each comic that you're looking at in its CGC price. I feel like not enough people are aware of that tool. It is a subscription-based tool, but it's fairly reasonable, especially if you're buying and investing in graded comics. And GPanalysis.com. I can't recommend it enough. We turn a lot of people that come into the store that are interested in graded comics onto it. So I would say that's my favorite comic-related thing of the year.
You said it's behind a paywall.
It is behind a paywall, but it is worth the investment. I think it's $65 a year.
I think Cover Price is also behind a paywall. You can get some of their stuff for free, but I think the nice stuff is behind a paywall as well. For favorite podcasts of the year, I had some new additions to my podcast listening. I listen to a lot. I have a lot longer commute than Kyle does. I think Kyle's commute is 4 minutes or something like that.
It's 8.
8. Oh, I'm sorry.
Whew.
8 minutes.
Kyle, how do you manage that? I mean, how many times does the horse and buggy have to stop to get water?
It does quite a few. I don't always even scrape the window. I just go in with it all frosted over. It'll be fine.
Nice.
So many accidents. So many accidents he causes. But anyway,
But that's all behind him, Drew. That's all behind him.
Oh, yeah, he leaves disaster in his wake, but that's another story. Our good friend Mike M has a new podcast he launched. Mike Myers launched called DC Everything Else podcast that focuses on horror comics and war comics and romance comics and sci-fi comics from DC, old school stuff mostly. There have only been 3 episodes. I've enjoyed all 3 of them very much. So that was a standout podcast for me. And my colleague at the Relatively Geeky Network I discovered his podcast this year, which included the Comics Reading Journal, the Quarter Bin podcast, the Shortbox Showcase, and his Doomcast, because he's a super Doctor Doom fan. So I've enjoyed listening to his stuff as well. He's really good, Kyle. He scripts his podcasts and actually, yeah. You know how we like stammer and stutter, and there's no coughing in his. There's no Kyle. Kyle doesn't hack up a lung in his episodes. It's top notch entertainment, man, and you should definitely check it out. So those are my favorite podcasts of the year.
I don't listen to too much in the way of comic podcasts, unfortunately. Again, I don't have much of. I know a lot of people have talked highly of the Wolverine Long Night podcast and things like that.
Ah, yes.
So a shout out to that format of taking a comic and doing it in podcast format.
Actually doing the podcast and then converting it into a comic. I think it went the other way.
Or vice versa, yes.
Yes, pretty neat. Do you do any podcast listening?
I do quite a bit. Unlike Kyle, I have anywhere from a 35-minute to an hour one-way commute when I go into my actual real job office. So I definitely have to hit up podcasts, and I listen to a different variety of things. But for comics, I think I have to recuse myself from saying the comic book page because I am now a monthly regular on that one.
Yes.
So
yes,
that might be
yourself.
Insider trading. Comicbookpage.com. But anyways, so I think for me it's kind of a three-way tie, actually. And I have to recuse myself from this one as well because I'm an every week contributor via the FOC. But you're already listening here, so you don't need to be directed to come to this one. So I would say that probably tied up there for me.
Do you listen to anything that you're not on? Do you listen to anything that you're not on?
I do. I listen to Mike M's.
Okay.
However, spoiler, I'll be on an episode of that coming up. And I'm going to say the other. So Mike M's is one. Then I have. I'll go with CCL. So the Collected Comics Library. They took a pause. Chris is back. He's got Andy, Tom, and I really like kind of the new format of the show. I like the different things that they're doing. I find it to be. It's fun.
They're explicit now, right?
I think they may throw that tag on there, but it's not,
It's not bad?
No.
Yeah.
And then the third one is Best of the Rest, and that's Jay and Dennis. And it initially started as a pure indie comics podcast where they were talking about all the back half stuff and probably deeper cuts on the back half than, things like Valiant and Boom and Dynamite. It's deeper cuts than that, like Fantagraphics and things along those lines. They kind of went through just a little bit of a shift in how they're formatting and what they're discussing, and it's really broadened a little bit. So Dennis is starting to get into pulps, so they're talking about a little bit of the sci-fi and the pulp collection type of stuff, and just bringing in more topics. It's great. It's a great podcast. It comes out once or twice a month, depending on their schedules and what they've got, and sometimes a little bit more frequently. I think they're shooting for a little more frequently in the coming year, so that's Best of the Rest. But yeah, so it's Mike M's, the CCL podcast, and Best of the Rest.
Mike M is actually, I think his feed is Geek Brunch, I believe, is his feed. So if you want to get any of his, he's on like 4 or 5.
He's prolific. If you Google Mike M's weekly reads, you'll go to the right place.
Okay. Yep. But I think DC everything else is actually under DC Noise.
DC Noise, yeah.
Yes. So that might be a little tougher to find, but worth it. Definitely worth it.
Yep, absolutely worth it. Mike is easily the most positive and upbeat person you will ever talk to about comics.
Yes. He has never read a comic that he didn't like. Never.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
I don't think he's ever seen a movie he didn't like. I'm not sure he's ever seen a TV show he didn't enjoy. He loves them all. All of it.
I bet you even he would agree, though, that ambulance chaser commercials are the worst.
I don't know.
That's true. William Shatner's on them. Damn it.
Yeah. He might see some value in some of those.
But yeah, so those guys are all fantastic, and I love all the episodes they put out.
Okay, the worst thing to happen in comics in 2019. another downer of a category. I don't know who put this thing together, but for me, it's the proliferation and the more commonality of the $5, $6, $8, $10 comic. No good can come from this except for those greedy retailers, and they can that make a lot of money off this stuff. But who gives a shit about them? Screw those guys. I'm for the little guy. I'm for you readers out there, and we hate $5, $6, $8, and $10 comics. Boo!
I tell you what, man, we as retailers hate them too.
Do you really?
Oh my God,
I
are you
that was
kidding
like
me?
Easy money.
No, we still have to pay the same percentage whether it's a $10 book or a $3 book. No, we have to fork out more cash up front. Remember, we pay for everything
Oh,
the
that's
day it
true.
walks in the door, which is the day before you get a chance to come and buy it. So
Yes, that's
no,
true.
we're fine if everything's 99 cents.
Yeah, so if a $6 buck ends up in the dollar box, it's a little harder on them than a $2.99 book ending up in the dollar box.
Yep.
That's true. That's very much true.
For me, it's the decline of Image, the end of Walking Dead, the pausing of Saga, the ending of most of the things that I was reading in Image.
And for me, I'm really trying to figure out when they started. When did the DC Walmart specials start, Drew? Was that in 2019 or late 2018?
I mean, it expanded in 2019 for sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to say that that's the worst. And I've gone on I think on the comic book page we talked about it, but to synthesize it down into a small and concise discussion, I would just say that DC did an absolute disservice to themselves, to retailers, and to readers by forcing readers to go to another store to buy things at a higher price point with more content in it that they most likely already have. Being beat out by scalpers going to get the books to flip them, which I don't care. That's fine. That's people's prerogative. I don't give a crap. But you cut out a lot of people from who wanted to read those stories from being able to read them. My solution was let Walmart have their exclusive DC Giants where they've got new content and old content, and let retailers have a 99-cent or a $1.99 10-page comic that just had the new stuff, so that we weren't losing our readers and having them disenfranchised. And what ultimately happened in our store was readers started dropping DC books because they couldn't get those other items, not knowing if they fit into the DC universe or not. So that was a shame on DC, and that's where I'm at.
I was on the other side of the fence at first on this,
And that's
until
totally
I read
cool.
them.
I totally respect that.
No, but I'm on your side now. After I read them, I thought this was really high quality comics that belonged in comic book shops, and there was no reason. The exclusivity was not necessarily needed for Walmart. They wouldn't have had to have had that, and I think 100% $1.99, or putting it out every couple of months, in a $3 or $4 book, like whatever they finally put out, whatever was the format that it finally came out in. I can't remember how big it was.
It's still coming out in kind of that single issue form.
Yeah,
But I would say
just the new stuff though. They don't reprint the old stuff, right?
Right, and I would say for me, it's not so much the content exclusivity that I think if you want to have format exclusivity, fine, that's just fine. But content exclusivity is where it really starts to undermine the entire way that comic books are sold. DC, Marvel are not on shelves at bookstores, quickie marts, grocery stores, because they get crowded out by People, Newsweek, Teen Life, whatever the heck else is out there. So you cut off a leg. If you're in those other markets, then it's not as big of a deal because we're all fighting equally. But when you're not in those markets, you cut out the legs of the one exclusive place that people have to go. I think it was short-sighted and poorly executed.
Yeah. The best thing that happened to comics in 2019, I think, is the expansion of Hoopla participation nationwide by library systems. I like this model as a gateway drug to more comic reading. I don't think they necessarily need to print everything in Hoopla, but they need to print the first volume of everything in Hoopla. I want people to be able to find legal, free means to read comics, get excited about those comics, and then become comic addicts like me. And the best way I think to do that is through the thousands and thousands and thousands of library systems nationwide. I think digital is a great gateway drug, and I was really excited by the expansion of Hoopla, statewide here as well as nationwide.
I don't really have what I thought was the best. Like I said, a lot of the expansion of how FOC works and the exclusive stuff on there, the ability to see art that you couldn't see in previews. Like I said, that kind of changed the way that we do a lot of ordering, and I really thought that stepped the game up a little bit.
For me, I'm going to go with Marvel, and probably not where you're thinking, but I'm really happy with Marvel going back and starting to reprint some of their out-of-print hardcovers and collections that are incredibly expensive on the secondary market, and trying to get these key stories back into readers' hands that are either related to their cinematic universe or things that they're doing in their books. So the examples off the top of my head are the long out-of-print Deadpool by Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness omnibus, which crept up to a $300 to $400 omnibus, is going to be back in print. They've solicited it. Annihilation, which obviously we have Annihilation Scourge going on right now in the current storylines in Marvel Comics right as we speak. Having that, again, another $200 to $300 omnibus that was out of print for a long time. And personal favorite of mine, the Silver Surfer Volume 1 omnibus, issues 1 through 18, is going to be back in print, and that was also another expensive one, as well as some of their other smaller hardcovers that are starting to come back in print. I think a doubling down by their collected editions department to say we need to get these key stories into play, I think is wise. It's certainly been very fruitful for us in the store, and it's something that I hope they continue to do. Keep your items in print that are perpetual sellers. Keep an eye on the secondary market, and if there's demand for it, print it.
Yeah, it surprises me just how scarce some of these things are, and the demand, how high the demand is for some of these collected editions, and it's good that they're reacting to that.
Yep.
and putting them out. So hopefully there's going to be more of that, and DC needs to take that lead too.
Let's not even go there. They're even worse. They tease it and then they cancel it.
Yeah, did we get any answers as to why they? I mean, what threshold did those editions not meet, and couldn't they just expand the solicitation cycle until they met that demand?
Most of the times it wasn't demand. Most of the times it was, there's one questionable panel that was done back in the 40s that was during wartime, and it may not look favorably on someone who we were fighting against in the war. We can't do that. That's insensitive. That's just not right. Rather than just looking at it and saying, this is a slice of our history. It happened. We need to learn from it. We need to move on. Print it, and then have a discussion around it. Use it as a tool. Use it as a teaching opportunity. Use it to add some commentary from someone who maybe existed from the other side of the fence. But instead, they just, put their tail between their legs and canceled it. Another case was another one would be the Detective numbers 1 through 26. That was a double hardcover slipcase set. Go find another collection of those out there somewhere. Good luck. And they just decided that, again, this is kind of somewhat insensitive content potentially, so we have to cancel it. Don't ask me why the Mark Waid Impulse Omnibus was canceled and turned into 2 paperbacks. I lost more sales than I would care to admit, and I wrote an email to DC saying, now I have to return money to customers, which is fine if that's going to be the game plan. But what I had was a double-digit order for a $100 omnibus hardcover edition, and you are resoliciting them in 2 trade paperbacks, and I went from selling 10 of those hardcovers to 1 set of trade paperbacks. That's terrible. And they just canceled the Starman omnibus, which we had, between James and I, we were planning on ordering probably 2 dozen of, because it's such a great story. It's great stuff. Nope, canceled. Gone. So they're just it's we don't know why. There's no communication. Um, James actually sat down, oh boy, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, with Dan DiDio at a show, and said, "What's up with all these cancellations?" And Dan's like, "Well, that was a problem in our collected editions department, but that's been taken care of, and that won't be happening anymore. And we've had 3 books canceled since then."
Eek.
So
Hmm.
add
Yeah,
that to
that's
see previous bullet about DC.
yeah, that's really frustrating.
It
That
is.
is really frustrating.
I mean, it
But
sucks when you have to return money, but you know what? That's fine. It's a pre-order thing. We get that. But what's even worse is when you take good quality content that it has a place in our hobby, and you're stripping it away, like the Shazam stuff. That's a $300 to $400 hardcover on the secondary market that was canceled. I mean, that's the exact same thing that Marvel's doing, only they're following through printing it. Regardless of what the content is, it's content from the era, and we can't change history. We can change what happens in the future and how we look at things, how we handle situations. But if you ignore it, you're just being ignorant.
I'm wondering if Batwang has reverberated. They don't like bad PR, and they're terrified of bad PR decisions. Is that what it is? That they're just gun shy?
I personally don't think so.
Well, then they need to sack up and print this stuff. When you were talking, a couple of things jumped into my mind as well that I kind of should have jotted down. The facsimile edition, the rise of the facsimile edition
It's
in
fantastic.
2019. I've really enjoyed some of these. Really, especially when they pick and select key issues that I can't really afford.
Yep.
They're really fun. They look great. I love the ads being printed. I think that's great.
Yep.
And since Stan Lee's passed, I think Marvel's done a fantastic job of honoring him each month with a Stan soapbox in the Marvel comics. I've enjoyed reading those. Because I don't remember them all. I don't remember reading those back in the day. I don't know if I skipped over them or whatever. But to see those kind of dusted off and in a new light, and it just it reminds me how great Stan Lee was, and what an awesome cheerleader for the hobby we had and we've lost. So I think those. I'm glad that they continue to do that, continue to honor him. Although I'm sure they're going to stop doing that in 2020, but maybe not. Maybe they'll keep doing it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think there's always going to be an association of Marvel and Stan Lee. I don't see that going away for a
Yeah.
very, very significant amount of time. So it would be nice if they continue to do little things like that. And I think part of it, too, half of it is honoring Stan Lee, and I think the other half of it is how incredibly relevant his Stan soapboxes from 35 years ago are today.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd say
it's
it's
kind of
amazing.
sad.
Yeah,
But also, I guess, reassuring that all along there's been people with good thought, good foresight, that could put things into words that a number of people probably today should read, who unfortunately aren't reading them. But yeah, I agree. I think the facsimile editions are great. The $1 True Believers and DC dollar comics, I think those are phenomenal tools to help, again, put some of those key issues in people's hands that otherwise couldn't afford them, and also serve as kind of a jumping on point for key storylines.
yep. Okay, our prediction for 2020. On a personal level, I am not going to just talk about selling my collection this year coming up. I'm going to price it. I'm going to set up a convention. I know I said that last year. I'm well aware. But this year I'm probably going to do it. Doggone it. And from an industry standpoint, um, I'm going to see. I think we're going to continue to see the big two dominate, um, an 80% share of the market, the direct market, and that's going to continue. And I think it's going to have some negative effects in the smaller publishers that have been holding on and holding on, hoping to rebound. And I don't think they're going to. And we might lose a couple of small publishers this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping that in 2020 we get a little bit more tie into comics with some of the Disney Plus stuff and some of the way that these things are all being cycled into new mediums, be it TV shows or movies or web series or whatnot. I'm hoping they do more collaborations with comic and hopefully lead more people to floppy comic books because of that. That's what I'm hoping the industry starts moving more that way instead of just everything from comics to other mediums.
I'm going to say my 2020 prediction is that it's going to get worse before it gets better for DC, and that there's going to be some sort of leadership change that has to happen during 2020 to help correct them. I also think that I'm going to say 3 times in the year 2020, Marvel's going to have over 60% market share.
Wow.
Very cool.
That'd be a first, right?
I think they've knocked on the door up around the 55 to 58 range once or twice, but I think they're going to hit 60. I have a hunch. When I hear things bantered about like convergence, the second convergence, and things like 5G, where comments come out that say we're starting to figure out that continuity is important. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's not great.
No.
Yeah, those are not encouraging comments from the top, and it's the same guys that were in the top that we talked about, I believe, last year, assuming that they were going to be replaced, and they're still around.
Right.
So hopefully this year is the year something happens that gets shaken up and we go in the right direction, whether it's 5G or 6G, whatever.
Why don't they just call it LTE? It's AT&T for
roaming.
Christ's sakes.
Why don't they
Come
just
on.
call it roaming?
Yeah. No. Can you read me now? Oh, that was Verizon.
Well, we are at an hour 20. I don't think we're going to be able to do the rest of the show on this episode, so we'll call that an episode, and we will bring us home, Kyle.
Okay, we'll wrap it up. We want to thank you for listening. Of course, if you've got any of your best of 2019, drop us a line. Drew gave you all of the different social medias, be it the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Twitters, Gmail account, or all that stuff. Be part if you agree with some of the things we said, or if you disagree. Feel free to toss those things in. Be part of the podcast. Let us know what you loved about comics and which ones you really enjoyed of 2019. And if you've got some doom and gloom predictions for DC like we've had here today, share those with us as well. Don't forget, Eric has issued a challenge for the year 2020 as far as buying and selling and flipping and profiting from comics to be put back to the Heroes Initiative. So the stuff that's coming out next week is going to be part of that because those will come out in 2020 and be part of this. So don't skip a week. Figure out what's going on. So for Drew, for Eric, and for myself, see you.